I'm here with Sherry Lukey, and we just wrapped up our quarterly planning workshop where we had a lot of really cool business owners and entrepreneurs attend from various places in the world. And we had a 3 hour extravaganza of planning, which was really, really fun. And I've invited Sherry to be a part of these workshops because it's really important that we turn off the stress response and get into our creative problem solving part of the brain. So Sherry, why don't you share like what you do and why it's so important that you kind of combine it with the planning? Because I think it's so underrated, first of all, what you do, but it's also really important that you're able to think clearly when you're planning. And that's like the big part of the strategy that we've implemented here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this is so cool, Caroline, that it's like that you have the awareness of how critical this mindset piece is to planning
Huge, huge.
because it really is like change of any kind, whether it's planning, whether it's reflecting, whether it's in any part of your life. As soon as you go to change in any way, shape, or form, the
Yeah,
stress response comes on to a certain degree because the subconscious it equates safety with familiarity.
yeah,
And so as soon as we go to change anything, it just freaks out to varying degrees, depending on how big the change is, right?
yeah, yeah,
And so then as soon as that happens, we lose our ability to see things differently. We lose that creative problem solving part of our brain. And we go into, the very natural negativity bias that the subconscious has, especially when we do, because with your workbook that we go through,
hmm,
like the first part is to reflect.
yeah,
And as soon as we do that, invariably, because of that negativity bias, we automatically go into stress response because we before we even know it, we're looking at what we didn't do
hmm, hmm.
instead of what we did do.
And we've
And
heard people say that.
yeah,
Oh, I didn't get enough done. I didn't do all the things I wanted to do. And that's not necessarily true either.
no, and that's the cool part because it's like
Yeah.
because when so EFT stands for emotional freedom technique, and it's more commonly known as tapping because you literally tap on high concentrations of nerve endings and it turns off the stress response. And as soon as we get that off,
Hmm.
then we have that ability to be able to see things from new perspectives. We can think creatively, we can problem solve, and we're able to do that first part of the planning, which is that reflective part, which is so important because there's so much information and so much learning
Yeah.
that's available, but only when we're looking at it through an objective lens.
Yeah. And we heard so many people after we did the reflection piece say, "Oh, I had totally forgotten that I had done that. I didn't know I had accomplished that much." And it's so important that you pause and give yourselves credit for what you did. Otherwise, like, especially with creatives, I find that that's really true. Like, we're always on to the next target. We're always moving the goalpost. And if we don't stop and pause and look at what we just accomplished, it's kind of all a blur. You know what I mean? Like it's just, and you never give yourself any credit for it. And then it always feels like you're never far enough ahead because it's always moving to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And that can get really exhausting. So it's so, so helpful and so productive, I feel like, to pause and give yourself that credit and then go like, yeah, I had some unexpected things happen. There's always something, right? We heard that too. But you still got quite a bit done. And you wouldn't have remembered that if we hadn't actually paused and looked at it. And then being able to like share your wins in a supportive group setting is huge too. It's so powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, that because we always talk about reframing, right?
Yeah.
But it's really difficult to reframe when you're in that primal brain in that stress response because it's like your options are fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, which is people pleasing. And so
Yeah.
it's so difficult to try to see things from those new perspectives and to be able to show up with some compassion and some understanding and some patience with themselves and be able to do that reframe that it's like, okay, well, yeah, no, I had this list of things and maybe I didn't get the whole list of things done, but
Hmm.
maybe these other things happened and then be able to reframe it from, well, what if I could just learn from the
Hmm.
last quarter and be able to kind of
Yeah.
go, okay, this worked, that work didn't work, and have that really objective perspective and then it actually becomes effective then instead of just this opportunity to beat yourself up again, which accomplishes nothing.
Yeah. And one thing I find fascinating actually is that a lot of people's expectations are so incredibly high. I mean, it's great to have high expectations, but they have this long list of things they want to accomplish, and then this major life event comes along, and then they still expect to be able to finish that entire list, even though that one event completely eclipsed their entire life.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it replaced it. You know what I mean? But it's like, no, we have such high expectations of us. Like, no matter what happens, we still have to get that exact list done. And it's just fascinating to hear some of the takeaways that people have of like, oh, right, that didn't get done, but there was a good reason for it. So
Yeah.
obviously, there's always unexpected things that are going to pop up in our life. I mean, life happens. It doesn't mean that you throw your list out the window, but it also doesn't mean that you don't adjust it. Like, we have to be able to adjust as we go, you know? It's just funny to hear that.
Yeah, well, and like we said in the planning is that it's like you can't change what you're not aware of.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
and the first piece is being able to be aware. And when you can be aware from a really objective, in that relaxed, objective place, man, the information that becomes available,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can implement the strategy and all the things, because it's like, because now you're coming from a place of what works
Yeah,
instead of focused on what doesn't work. And it's
yeah,
like, and it's so motivating. Like that
it's
was the thing.
motivating.
Yeah, like it's like wrapping up. It was like you could see everybody was lighter and focused, and they have their, their one sheet to be kind of like to know
Yeah,
where to focus for the next 90 days. And
yeah,
yeah, it's just such a uh, such an important thing to pause and take that time.
yeah.
And man, it goes fast. I'm always shocked at how fast it goes.
I know. Like, didn't we just do this? You know,
Yeah, well,
and
even just the time and do the planning.
even the planning part. Yeah, I know. It sounds like a long time, like you're signing up for, and you're like, oh wow, it's kind of a long workshop. It goes by like that. It goes by like that because you're in that focus mode, and you're like just getting deeper and deeper, and it's so much fun though. Like when you have a plan. I know I'm preaching to the choir a little bit, but when you have a plan, everything changes. And a lot of times, sometimes people say to me, well, I can't plan the project that I'm working on because I don't have all the answers. Like, how can you possibly plan how your project's going to go if you don't have all of the answers up front? Like, if you don't know all the milestones and all of that, like, don't you have a goal and then you backtrack? But how can you know all the milestones if you don't know exactly what's happening? And it's like you're never going to have all the answers, but we can just make like the best decisions with the information we have available to us now. And then when we add on the EFT, now even more information and more, problem solving is available to you. And that's when it really goes into this, higher, like, powerful strategy where you really can focus. And then as you go, obviously you can always, adjust the plan, right? It's not set in stone. I think people forget that. It's like you made a plan, and there's always going to be variables that change, but you can always adjust it as you go. It's just that you have to start somewhere. So we have to start with the information we have now, you know? I think
Yeah,
that's the
and
thing.
yeah, totally. And then having that compassion piece
Yeah,
of understanding that things are going to change, and also you start to cultivate trust in yourself, that it's like, oh, okay, you know what, I can figure this out. I
I
got
can
this.
handle it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And that's a big part of it too. Because I think the more you do this type of planning, the more you see, like, oh, I was able to handle it. You collect proof that month after month after month, you're like, oh, I was able to figure that out. I was able to handle what was thrown at me. And you start to get even more clarity and even more confidence that, oh, yeah, no matter what life throws at me, I can kind of figure that out. I've done that before. I think it's really important to gather all that evidence that you are getting things done and that you are able to handle things that are coming, towards you.
and you start to realize that it's like, and especially with, and this is the exciting part about being a part of this, is to help people to understand the subconscious. And
Mm-hmm.
that it's like, as soon as any change comes along, and so then you can begin to just kind of expect it and kind of go, okay, yeah, no, it's probably going to feel uncomfortable for a little while,
Yeah,
and then it's going to get sorted, and I got this,
yeah,
I can handle it.
yeah. I'm so excited to see what the students come up with in the next 3 months. We talked about this during the call. We've had people double, we've had people triple their incomes from doing this planning with us in the past year. We've had people do full makeovers of their like rooms, home offices, and there's been so many really cool changes. We've had people. One person said today she set up the entire structural foundation for a business, right, from one of these takeaways that she had. So we're getting like massive results for people, and I'm so excited about that. Like, imagine if they keep going, where they're going to be in a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 3 years from now. It's so powerful. And I'm so excited for you to be a part of many more of these workshops. I really am. I really am. It's just, it's so amazing to have you there to help bring this subconscious piece into it. Because I always say that, you know, I can throw so many strategies at you, but if you're resisting change, you're resisting change, and you're paddling upriver, you know?
Well, and it was fun today. Like there was like two people that were like, you know, I know I needed to take some time
Yeah.
to breathe and to relax and just hadn't taken it. Didn't
Yeah.
think they had the time, and they didn't expect it in the planning. And then
Yeah.
so bonus for them, because it's like, oh, I get this and that. And
And
so it's not an either or, it's both, and the two together are just so incredibly empowering.
yeah, yeah. So exciting and well deserved for them. Like they deserve to take that time for themselves. And I'm so thrilled that so many people showed up and took that time
Yeah.
for themselves, and actually they're actually doing the work, and that's why they're seeing the results. And it's so exciting. So anyway, thank you, Sherry, for being part of it. And I want to extend the invitation for anybody who's watching. If you are interested in doing quarterly planning with us, head over to the website. It's theswedishorganizer.com. And click on quarterly planning, and you can actually sign up to get the first experience for free. So we have another one coming up soon, and we hope to see you there. All right.